I'm Bill, and this is what's in my bag. First, we're going to start off with putters. Now, I came from the Vibram Ridge, which was a very narrow, shallow putter, and so I didn't gravitate toward the ion and the anode because they were a deeper putter for me, so I like the feel of the narrow. The first disc that they came out with, Axiom, came out with the Envy. And I tried to use the Envy, wasn't a big fan of it at the beginning. I still hung on to the Ridge. And then one day I decided, you know what, if I'm going to go all MVP, I'm going to go all MVP. So I took the Ridge out of my bag and I started to really get to learn how to putt with the Envy and became a huge fan. It's a great driving putter. It's a stable putter, and so I can drive with it. I can drive into a headwind and it will hold that line straight with a nice finish at the end. Then they came out with the Axiom Proxy. And this is a very straight, stable putter. You can throw it straight or on an Anheuser or a hyzer line, and it will hold that line. I can throw this on a light Anheuser line with not a lot of power, and then it will hyzer out at the end with a light hyzer. I like this disc a lot, and so it has found a place in my bag. And then most recently, MVP came out with their Atom, which is in their Electron plastic, which is a much grippier plastic. It's got a great feel to it, and this one has found a place in my bag. It will not knock anything out of my bag because I like all three. I think it's a little more understable than the Proxy, so they all will stay in my bag. And I have the Envy in the soft plastic as well because I like to hold on to that, especially in these colder Ohio winters. So that is the putters. I don't carry all these in my bag. I normally carry just one of each in my bag. The Electron plastic, the Atom, comes in the firm and the soft, and I like both of those. Next, let's take a look at what I carry for my mid-ranges. Of course, the first mid-range that I had was the Axis. This is a very nice, straight-flying mid-range. I just picked this one up. This is a nice sparkle in the Proton plastic. This is a nice straight disc for me. I can really power it, and it's going to hold that straight line with a nice fade at the end, but not an exaggerated one. So it is a straight disc. And again, I can turn this over on an Anheuser line, and it will hold that line and then fade out at the end just a little bit. And I have the Tangent. This Tangent is an understable mid-range. I also like this one too. I can power it and throw it on a nice straight line, and it will turn just a little bit. Or I can really force it, and it's going to hold that line all the way through to the end. Again, this is in the Proton plastic, and I really enjoy this disc. This disc will always be in my bag. Then for MVP's Overstable, I have all of the molds, all of the MVP and Axiom molds that are currently out. There is the MVP Tensor and the MVP Vector. I had both of these at the same time, and after throwing each of them, I just like the feel of the Tensor better. This has great glide to it. I can trust it into a headwind. It will stay straight with a nice strong finish at the end. I don't worry about this one, and I do still throw this one a lot. Axiom's newest mid-range is the Theory. I have the Theory and I have the Alias. The Alias has not found a place in my bag at this time. I just think that the one that I have is too heavy for me. I like the 168 to 172 range for my throwers. My putters, I like to stay in the 174 range. I like the heavier putters, even for the driving ones. But for my throwers, my mid-range is on up. I like the 168 to the 172. I've got some heavier ones that actually do work for me. But the theory, I haven't quite got the grasp of it yet. When it comes to mid-ranges, I tend to levitate toward the tangent for the understable mid-range. But this is also an understable mid-range. So I'm still working on finding this one, but it's in my bag. I use it. I can hyzer flip this, and it will flip up. But if you don't put enough power on it, it will flip up, and then it will relatively quickly fade out. So those are the mid-ranges. Next are my fairway drivers. I'm going to start with the MVP. Because these are the ones I had first. Start with the one that, this is not the original one that I got. This is the MVP Volt. The original one I had, I don't know if it's because it's one of the earlier ones, but at this stage, I don't know if I've hit too many trees, but it has become very flippy and very understable for me. So I acquired this one used. Don't worry, I know a lot of you collectors might be looking at this and going, how are you throwing a Skullboy? Well, it's got a bit of a gash in the rim, not a big one, but not enough to really keep it as a wall hanger. So I decided to put it in my bag. The Proton plastic generally seems to be more stable than the Neutron plastic. They're both great plastics. So I've got this one. I haven't been throwing this model a lot lately. I've been levitating gravitating towards some of the other molds. But this one will always be in my bag. It's a great long driver. It's got turn at the beginning, and then it's got a pretty consistent fade that you can depend on in the end. The one that complements that is the Servo. The Servo also is a fairway driver. This one will have some turn at the beginning, but it will have a much stronger fade at the end. And I hold on to this one, so if I'm throwing into a headwind, I know that I can throw this, and I know it's going to turn just a little bit and even exaggerate it into a headwind. But at the end, I know it's going to finish strong and have a nice consistent fade. I'll leave this one up here because there's something to talk about. The Shock is another overstable. This one, yeah, you could call it a meat hook. This one is a more domier disc. It's got a more of a dome, so it's going to have a bit more glide to it. I had actually taken this one out of my bag for a while because I was running out of room as I was trying all the different molds that were coming out. What I would call the brother to this is the Resistor. This is also my go-to overstable. I can flick it. It's a great forehand disc for me. It is my go-to disc into a headwind. Again, I can throw it into the strongest headwind and it's going to stay straight and still finish on a nice fade at the end. I can trust this disc. It is not as domey, so it's not going to have as much glide. But I recently put the Shock back in because even after playing for 5 years, I have to say I'm still learning. And you should still be learning too, no matter how long you've played. I'm beginning to better each year understand stability. The understable, the stable, and the overstable. So I put the Shock back in to give me more glide, maybe a little more distance. But my go-to disc is the Resistor for the overstable fairway drivers. And then the understable driver that I carry from MVP is the Switch. It again is a great understable driver. It has a nice turn at the beginning. I can really pull it and it's going to turn. If you throw it into a headwind, it's going to hold that turn and keep turning. If you throw it on a nice calm day or a light headwind, I'm not saying anhyzer it, but I'm saying pull it. It will turn, and then at the end, it will have a consistent fade. It's a nice disc. It's always going to stay in my bag. Of course, I like the nice peach swirl on this one. The servo, the switch, and the resistor, they're all siblings, I guess you could say, because they all have the same core to them. The volt and the shock have a different core from these, but these three discs all use the same core, so you can see they're all relatively flat. So those are the MVP fairway drivers. Then I also carry the full complement of the Axiom fairway drivers. They're not overlapping. I carry all of them because they all have a different time and place to be used. I could carry an all Axiom bag. I could carry an all MVP bag and still be very successful with what I choose. But I keep all of them in my bag because they all have a place. The only one that I carry a single model of is the Inspire. The Inspire is Axiom's understable disc. This is more understable than the Switch, but it's also very good for those shots. I don't have a strong forehand right now. I can do a short upshot flick. I can feel confident within 100 feet, but beyond that to drive with, I don't have it. So I have to depend on an Anheuser turnover shot, and this is my go-to disc if I want to just keep that. If I need it to fade out the end, I'll go to the Switch. But the Inspire is the understable Axiom line fairway driver. Then, the first fairway driver that they came out with was the Crave. Love this disc. I had a pre-release Crave that I lost, which hurt me terribly, but this is one of my go-to discs. As it gets broken in, and MVP plastic takes a little bit longer to break in because it's such good plastic. This one actually can be consistent where I can turn it over a little bit. If I want to throw it into a slight headwind, but I still want an Anheuser shot, rather than grabbing the Inspire, which even into a slight headwind could turn and burn, the Crave I can throw, put a little bit of an Anheuser on it, and it is going to do a really good job of holding that line and then fading out at the end consistently. In the Crave, in the next disc I'll show you, which is the other fairway driver, I carry both plastics. I carry the Proton and the Neutron plastic. This disc actually spent the summer in a deep mound of grass. I saw exactly where it went in, and I couldn't find it. And every time I went back to this course, which was a local one that I played often, I always looked in that same spot. I looked everywhere that it could be and where it shouldn't be and couldn't find it. As fall came around and things started to die off, all of a sudden I look down, I see a glint of yellow, and here this disc is. So it came back. So yes, I carry both the Proton and Neutron Crave because this one also tends to be a little bit more stable. And actually, because this one's a little more broken in, this Neutron actually is a little more stable than the Neutron or the Proton counterpart. So that's the relatively stable. That's their stable driver. You can throw it; it's going to stay straight for you. My new go-to disc is the Axiom Clash. Love this disc. This one is actually a broken-in disc. You might be able to see it's been chewed up pretty well, just by general playing. And I carry also the Proton and the Neutron plastic in both of these. And this disc is like the Crave in that at the beginning it will have a turn, but the finish on this is a much stronger fade. It's a much stable to overstable finish. So I can throw this into a headwind or a slight headwind. Even if I throw it flat and I give it a nice tug, it's going to turn just a bit at the end. It's going to give me a slight S-curve, and then I know it's going to finish at the end. So again, this one tends to be a little bit more stable to overstable than this because it's the Proton plastic. So if I want to make sure this one being broken in, I could potentially turn it and it keep going and not come back until the very end, which might be too late. So I carry both of these molds. Those are the fairway drivers from both MVP and Axiom. The last thing I will cover are the distance drivers that are currently out. Axiom very soon is going to be coming out in 2015 with their distance drivers, and MVP is also going to be coming out with their, I guess, long distance drivers. Their, I believe it's the 21.5 millimeter wing, so it's a nice complement of those. But for MVP's distance drivers, they actually have all four, full complement from very understable to very overstable. The Impulse is the only one that I don't carry in my bag. It is the very understable distance driver, and I just never found a place for it for me. Other people might like it if you have a lower speed arm. It's one of those that you can still hyzer flip it with a lower speed arm. But for me, it didn't have a place. Then the next one on that line is the Inertia. I'm beginning to use this disc more. This is a very nice, it's an understable distance driver, but you can hyzer flip it and it's going to go out and it's going to have that nice consistent turn, and then it's going to have a nice fade. You can get a really nice S curve out of this disc, and it's got great glide. The next one is the Tesla. This is my go-to distance driver. I can throw this into a headwind. I can get a nice turn out of it, but nothing exaggerated. And then I know without a shadow of a doubt, it is going to fade consistently. If you throw this on a calm day and you don't put a little bit of anhyzer on at the beginning, it's going to go nice and straight, and then it's going to fade strong. So if it's not going into a headwind, I won't throw this disc. But if it's into a headwind, I don't hesitate. And then the last disc is their very overstable Motion. This one is one of the collector's discs that I chose not to collect. I wanted to throw it. It is the Einstein stamp on the Motion. And this is a meat hook. I can throw this into a headwind. It's not going to have any turn on it at all. It's going to go straight, and then it's going to finish strong. So if I'm throwing on a really strong dog leg to the left, I can throw this one out and know it's going to finish and have a nice glide to it. MVP plastic, very strong, very durable. I love it. I'm very happy with it, as you can see. That's what's in my bag. I do have some of their minis. I carry one of the Icons, and then I also have one of the Proton minis as well. So that's it. Everything else in here is just extra stuff that most people probably carry. I love my grip bag. It works really well for me. I don't see myself changing that anytime soon. So thank you for taking time to watch this video. I'm Bill Vanderhoof, and that's what's in my bag.